In 1989, Susie Creek in northeastern Nevada was barely a creek at all. It was a thin ribbon of water slicing through bare gravel. No willows, no sedges, no shade. Just sun-baked dirt stretching to the horizon under a sky that rarely delivered rain. Nevada receives less than 10 inches of rainfall per year, making it the driest state in America. And Susie Creek looked the part, a scar in the desert where water once meant something. Then a handful of beavers showed up. Not imported by helicopter. Not part of some multi-million-dollar government program. They walked in on their own, drawn by changes so subtle that the ranchers who worked the land almost missed them. Within a decade, those beavers had turned a dead waterway into a lush corridor of green, with deep pools, thick willows, and nesting waterfowl right in the middle of a landscape where nothing was supposed to survive a historic drought. What happened at Susie Creek reads like fiction, but every piece of it is documented by the USDA Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and peer-reviewed science. And the method behind it is so simple, it almost sounds like a joke: mud and sticks. This is the story of how the most underestimated animal in North America is rewriting the rules of drought survival in the American West, and why scientists, ranchers, and government agencies are now racing to copy what beavers do naturally. But to understand why this matters, you first need to know what we lost. Before European settlers arrived in North America, an estimated 60 to 400 million beavers occupied the continent. That number is not a typo. At the high end, there may have been more beavers in pre-colonial America than there are humans living in the United States today. Their dams and ponds covered more than 300,000 square miles of wetland, roughly a tenth of the total land area, creating a vast, interconnected mosaic of slow water, rich soil, and thriving habitat for fish, birds, amphibians, and mammals. Then came the fur trade. Beginning in the 1600s, beaver pelts became one of the most valuable commodities in the global economy. European demand for beaver felt hats drove an industrial-scale slaughter that reshaped the politics of an entire continent. The Hudson's Bay Company alone shipped nearly 3 million pelts to England between 1853 and 1877. French and British traders pushed deeper into the interior, establishing trading posts that would become cities like Montreal, Detroit, and St. Louis, all built on beaver money. Wars erupted between indigenous nations over control of trapping grounds. By 1900, the beaver population across North America had collapsed to roughly 100,000 animals, from hundreds of millions to 100,000 in 3 centuries. The consequences were catastrophic, but slow enough that most people never connected the dots. Without beaver dams to hold water back, streams cut deeper and faster through the landscape. Floodplains dried out, water tables dropped. Wetlands that had stored billions of gallons of water simply vanished. Rivers that once meandered through networks of ponds and marshes became narrow, incised channels racing toward the sea. In the arid West, the damage was especially devastating. Streams that had sustained wildlife and vegetation for millennia turned into the barren, eroded ditches we now consider normal. What most Americans see when they look at a western creek, a thin line of water between bare banks, is not natural. It is the aftermath of beaver removal on a continental scale. And in places like Elko County, Nevada, where Susie Creek and Maggie Creek wind through 200,000 acres of ranch land, the erasure was total. In 1990, a young cowboy named John Griggs got hired at Maggie Creek Ranch in Elko County. One of his first assignments was to drive a load of dynamite back from Battle Mountain. His job: blow up a beaver dam on Maggie Creek. The attitude among ranchers at the time was straightforward. Beavers were the devil. They dammed up irrigation ditches. They flooded grazing land. They were a problem to be eliminated with explosives. Around the same time, a Bureau of Land Management fisheries biologist named Carol Evans was looking at the same creeks from a completely different angle. Evans had spent her career studying riparian ecosystems across the Bureau of Land Management's Elko district, and what she saw alarmed her. Decades of unrestricted cattle grazing had